Welcome, welcome. My name is Karaima, and this is week 4 of our teaching series, What is Your Nineveh? In this series, we're asking the question, what is the thing God is calling me to do that I have been running from? In week 1, we talked about forgiveness, then we moved on to trust. Week 3, we talked about fear. And today, for week 4, we're talking about purpose. And I want you to ask yourself a serious question. Are you currently living in your purpose? When we hear the word purpose, a lot of us immediately think about career, ministry, business, gifts and talents, big life decisions, you name it. And purpose can include all of those things, but today we're talking about something bigger than just the title. Purpose is not just, am I supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a speaker? No, its purpose is bigger than just a title. So we need to be asking God, am I walking in the direction you're calling me to walk in? Am I using what you placed inside of me? Am I obeying the instruction you already gave me? And am I becoming who you created me to be? Sometimes you're not living in purpose because you're living in delay. You may be confused, living in fear, or even disobedience. Or you know that God said something to you, but you're still sitting there like, I don't know, God, was this really you talking to me? And then time keeps passing by, the days go by, months, and for some of us, maybe even years pass by. Until one day you wake up and you're like, oh snap, let me get to moving, let me get this done. And maybe that's where you are right now. Who knows? So when we look at Jonah chapter 1, we see that Jonah had a clear assignment. God told Jonah, go to Nineveh, deliver a message. That's it. That was Jonah's assignment in that moment. God had given him direction. Jonah, on the other hand, he didn't want to go. He went in the opposite direction, and you can be called and still run. You can have purpose and still resist it. And you can hear God tell you something and still delay it. Like you can know what you're supposed to do and still choose what feels to be more comfortable to you. Jonah's issue is not that God was silent, God didn't want to talk to him. It was that he didn't want to obey what God said. Sometimes that's honestly us. We ask God for purpose, and when he starts revealing it, we don't like the answer that he's giving us. We don't like the process, the sacrifices that's required. We probably don't even like the people that he's sending our way to help us for our purpose. And we sometimes don't even like the change it requires because when you're called, there's a lot of things that you got to change. Not just only your environment, even the people that you have around you. So we go to Tarshish, not physically, but spiritually, we just go in the opposite direction. We start distracting ourselves, we start overthinking, we keep trying to get confirmation out of everything, and we start doing everything except the very thing God told us to do. So running from purpose doesn't remove the purpose. It just creates unnecessary storms for you and others around you. Now with this, I'm going to give a bit of my story. There was a season where I knew I wasn't living in my purpose. I didn't know every detail of what God wanted to do yet, and I didn't have the full picture. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything. I just knew that what I was doing at that moment, like, wasn't it. There was something super off in my life, and I felt, I don't know, I just felt, I had never felt that feeling before. I had felt that my gifts and my talents and the things that I was good at were being wasted. And I remember praying that to God. I was like, God, these gifts and talents that you've given me, the things that I'm very good at. And I started listing them. One of them was writing, speaking. I remember I also said drawing because at one point I really enjoyed drawing and painting. And I was like, they're just being wasted here. I don't do anything related to what I believed at the time I was good at. I never thought it was like, expert level. Even now, I don't think that, I don't toot my own horn or anything like that. But I felt like I was good enough, and I felt like these are some of my talents and my gifts and just your natural abilities. Some people are good at playing sports, is their natural ability. Some people are good at just playing an instrument. They can play any instrument. For me, it's always been a way with words, a way with my handwriting, a way with my drawing, just a way, I guess you could say, with having a pencil in my hand or a pen in my hand. Just, I don't know, I can't even say craftsmanship, but just a way of telling a story. And I kept feeling like there was more. I'm like, man, there's more to life than this. I could feel like I was just going through the motions and this wasn't for me. And I'm sure a lot of you listening know exactly what I'm talking about. You may not have like a whole plan yet, but you know that where you are, this ain't where it at. It's not. And you don't know every step, but you just feel like a desire for change and to break invisible chains. Like you're free out in this world, but you just feel locked in and a pull in your spirit that says, no, man, this ain't it. Like a resistance, I guess that's the best way I could put it. And it's very uncomfortable because you may not have like the language for it yet. You could only describe the feeling. And sometimes discomfort is one way that God can get our attention. So I always had an idea of what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. I knew what I wanted, what I didn't want it. And even in seasons where I wasn't sure what direction to take, I would always talk to God and say, God, I don't know exactly what I want, but I know XYZ is what I don't want. And I would list everything that I don't want. And that has helped me throughout the years. I can't even tell you because it helps you focus. Knowing what you don't want sometimes helps you understand where your focus needs to go. And I'm going to give a simple example because some of you may be like, what are you talking about? I thought we were supposed to declare the things that we want, declare the things that we need. But let me give you this example. Ice cream. If I know I don't want vanilla ice cream, I'm not going to stand there looking at the vanilla options. And this is like the most simplest example, but it applies to our life. If you know you don't want to live a life where you're stressed all the time and you're just living in chaos, you're not going to partner with things or with people that produce that in your life. Like off rip, if you don't want to drink, you're not going to go hang out with people that are alcoholics. I'm not throwing shade to anybody. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to give you an example. If you know that you don't want to keep living outside of alignment, at some point you got to ask God, like, God, where are you leading me to? Like, where are we going? And God will give you a revelation before he even gives you the full plan. I'm sure if we all saw the in between, because I could speak for myself, had I known a lot of these things, I don't know. I don't know. But this is where we walk by faith, not by sight. But I'm sure if we see the in between and the things we have to go through to get God's promise, I think we would just keep living our lives the way that we do and doing what we want to do. And one of the biggest lessons that I have learned in my life is that God may give you the revelation and not the full plan. And it can be frustrating because we want God to explain everything. We want to know. We want to know who's going to support us. How is this even going to happen? When is it going to happen? And what is it even going to look like? But God often just gives us enough to move. not to control, but to move. He gives us just enough light for that next step. Purpose and faith, they work hand in hand. I will tell you that. And if God gave you the full plan, you might not need faith. All you would need is just the information, the blueprint. However, scripture talks about that we walk by faith and not by sight. I can look back now and say that God gave me the revelation and not the full plan, just the revelation. And being completely transparent, for a season, I did exactly what Jonah did. I did what I wanted to do and went the opposite way, thinking that, oh, this is what I want. And even to this day, when I look back, I'm proud of my decisions and I'm happy with how everything turned out when I got back into alignment. Because for several months, it caused turmoil in my life. And I can honestly say that it caused a bit of turmoil in other people's lives too, because they were worried. They were constantly checking up on me and they could sense that something's not right. You know how you get those phone calls that is like, man, something told me to call you. And then you're like, oh yeah, you know why? Because XYZ, blah 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 is happening. So for a season, that storm was not only happening to me, but it was touching others around me. And that's why I believe Jonah's story is so important, because his disobedience didn't only affect him, it affected the sailors. And sometimes when we're not walking in our purpose, maybe not sometimes, maybe all the time, who knows? Because everybody's story is different. When we're not walking in our purpose, the people connected to us can feel it too. They may not know what is happening, but they can sense your frustration, your heaviness, and just being around you, they can feel like you're unsettled. I'm sure a lot of you have felt that in other people, or people have called that out in you. Disobedience, it has a ripple effect, but so does obedience. Always think about the people that will be blessed when you step into your purpose and you walk into the calling God has over your life. Now, I say all of that to say this. If you're currently not living in your purpose, I truly believe that you know it, or you will know it if it hasn't been revealed yet. You may not know every detail, but you feel something. You feel like a desire to break out of patterns, and there's something invisible just tugging at you. You feel restless in places where you used to be comfortable. And it's not until you make that first step, which is always the scariest. I can speak from experience. That first step towards change, you're not going to experience that peace that you're looking for, because peace is connected to alignment, to being in the will of God. Philippians 4, it talks about the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. And that kind of peace doesn't always come when everything is perfect. It'll come when your heart is surrendered to God. And it comes when you declare, God, hey, I'm walking with you. And this is something that I'm personally speaking from experience. And that's something that I've read or I've heard somebody else talk about. Like, no, this is all experience. There's a peace that comes when you finally stop fighting God, when you stop delaying, when you stop trying to make things work that aren't even of God. God never told you to do that, and that's why you're so frustrated trying to get it to work. There's no ease in it. There's no like speed, and I'm not talking about fast. I'm just talking about just momentum. There's nothing. You just keep getting frustrated and frustrated. And the day that you walk in peace, you will know it. And I guarantee you, there's going to be people around you that are going to sense it as well, because I've had plenty of times where people, they don't know everything that's going on. They just know enough to be like, I don't know how you're so calm right now. Because if it was me, da 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 da, and it's like, I don't got to worry about nothing because God's handling it. I just got to, sometimes we literally just have to be still, and we have to be in prayer. We have to be worshiping. We have to be in warfare. Like, that's all, discernment and whatnot. But I just have peace because I know he's working in the background, and I just sometimes just gotta be in my word. Sometimes I gotta be working and pushing his ministry forward, doing things like that. So let's go ahead and talk about the signs that you may not be living in your purpose. And I'm gonna be careful here because not every hard season means you're outside of purpose. So please ask for discernment when you go into prayer if this applies to you. Because Jesus said that we will have trouble in this world. We will face challenges. We will face resistance. We are going to face spiritual warfare. There's going to be moments that require endurance and stamina. Our battles, as we know, are not against flesh and blood. So I'm not saying that if life is hard, you're automatically out of purpose. That's not true. Sometimes life gets hard, and because you are in purpose, God is building you up. But there's a difference between adversity and misalignment. Adversity, it strengthens you, while misalignment drains you. And adversity, yes, it can be uncomfortable, but there's still grace for it. Misalignment, on the other hand, feels like you're forcing something God never told you to carry. I always use this analogy in my life, and every time that I feel like this, I know I'm going in the wrong way. Think of climbing a mountain and you have a backpack on your back that's filled with bricks. Whenever you feel like that, like you're going somewhere and you just keep getting pulled down, you're carrying too much, and more than likely, you're heading in the wrong direction. I'm not saying life with God is roses and cherries and chocolate chips and all this. I'm not saying all of that. But there's a level of authority that you have. There's a level of peace that you have. There's a level of confidence of just your walk is different. Your walk is different, and you won't know what I'm talking about until you walk in that. Let's go ahead and talk about the signs. The first one is that nothing you do seems to go right. And again, I'm not talking about normal challenges. I'm talking about a pattern where everything feels forced, blocked, chaotic, and even draining. You start a new business, it fails. Then you start something else, fails too. You get into a relationship, and almost immediately, your peace is stripped away. Your sanity feels attacked. Your identity, like you just lose who you are. You no longer feel like yourself. You're constantly anxious, constantly drained. You're trying to make something work that keeps producing bad fruit. Now, two things. You may need deliverance from something, but that's not what we're talking about today. So, again, when you go into prayer, ask for discernment and all of that stuff because it might be a bigger issue than you being out of alignment. You might honestly need deliverance from something. There's a whole bunch of altars and a whole bunch of things, and we're not going to get into that because that's not what this platform is about. So go into prayer and ask. It's that simple. Second thing, all of this, like a failed business, doesn't mean that you were outside of purpose because sometimes failure teaches us, trains us, and it redirects us. But there are moments where the failure is not just a lesson, it's a warning, especially if you're seeing a pattern. That's why I brought up deliverance and breaking altars and all that stuff. And that's why I brought up discernment as well, because sometimes we keep asking God to bless something and he never told us to start it. We keep asking him to breathe on something that he keeps telling us to leave. We keep asking God to give us peace in something that's producing confusion. And a lot of times I've seen this happen, especially with the women that I coach in relationships. where they want something to work so bad, especially marriages. I try my best not to get involved in marriages, but they want something to work so bad. And it's like when you ask them how they started and, the origin of things, it's like, y'all weren't even supposed to be together in the first place. But that's like a whole nother story. But anyways, God is trying to tell you, like, hey, I'm not punishing you. I'm just trying to redirect you. I'm trying to make you go the right way. The second sign, you keep getting a nudge. It's like that small, still voice and like a pull. You sense something. And it may be one word, it may be two words, maybe a sentence, but you kept sensing something that says, go this way, leave that, prepare, forgive them, apply here, start this. You keep hearing things. And no matter how much time passes, it keeps coming back. And that tug never goes away. You keep trying to ignore it, but it just keeps showing up in your life. And of course, you have to test every spirit and cast down every thought that goes against the word of God. That's why I emphasize in every teaching, get in the word, and stay in the word. But if that word that you're hearing keeps pulling you towards obedience, service, even healing, or surrendering to God, it may be God trying to get your attention. All right. The third one is that if you feel a pull in the opposite direction of where you're going, don't confuse this with adversity, please, because when you walk with Christ, you're going to face challenges. There's some resistance that means you're on the right path, and the enemy's just trying to discourage you. That's why you have to know the difference between the enemy speaking and God speaking. I'm talking about that inner pull that says something ain't right. Like you could be in a room and your spirit just feels so uneasy. In a relationship, you keep feeling like something is off, and once those butterflies were off, and now it's just you and that person, and both of you are bare, you know each other, you just keep feeling like something's off. Or a job where your gifts and your talents, they're just dying there. It can even be about, let's talk about money, because some people are going through that. Could even be about money. It could be that you just feel spiritually empty, and that's why you're always empty. That pool is sometimes God trying to order your steps in a different direction. If you go to Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9, it says that in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. You can have your life mapped out and you can know exactly what you think you want, which I've done plenty of times. But God is the one who establishes your steps, and He is the one that lays the foundation. He orders the direction. Sometimes the reason you feel pulled in the opposite direction is because you're trying to walk a path that, for one, God did not establish for you, and two, you didn't bring God into your plans. You just said, this is what I want, this is what I desire, and I'm going for it. When the Bible clearly states that we have to, not verbatim, this is not verbatim, go read it for yourself. When the Bible says that we have to include God in everything that we do, in everything. And I want you to go ahead and practice that. When you wake up in the morning, ask God, God, what do you want me to do today? When you pick out your outfit, God, what do you want me to wear today? When you go eat, God, what do you want me to eat? What do you want me to cook? Do you want me to take a day off? Do you want me to go to a restaurant? God, it sounds ridiculous because it's like, man, I'm going to be all day asking, but it's going to train you till it gets to the point that surrendering is so easy, and that voice is always going to come first. You're always going to hear that voice first. So it doesn't mean that your plan is bad or you're just all over the place. No, 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 no. It's just not God's plan for you. The opportunity can be good, but it's not from God. Sometimes the relationship looks right, the marriage looks right, but it's not from God. Your career can make sense, but it could be that God's already done using that place, or that's not where God wants you to be at. That's why we have to stay close enough to God to know the difference in his voice and what he wants us to do and the things that the devil will use against us. Because you could be deceived and not even, well, no, deception is that you don't know it until you catch it. Because you could be being deceived right now. I want to bring in Jeremiah chapter 6. And to be clear, it's not directly talking about your personal life. It's not talking about purpose or anything like that. So please read it first so you know what this chapter talks about, because I'm not going to use it in the context it was made for. Okay? Let's be very clear on that. We're going to use it today in regards to purpose. And if you read this chapter, which I'm telling you to read it, it's not asking, hey, God, am I supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer? And God's like, no, walk this way. And you said no. No, 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 no. God is warning Jerusalem. He's speaking to a people who are not listening, and he's calling out rebellion, warning them about consequences. He's inviting them back to the right path. And I want to use that principle in this chapter in the context of purpose. In Jeremiah 6:8, God gives a warning. He tells Jerusalem to take warning or he will turn away from them and their land will become desolate. Then in Jeremiah 6:16, he tells them to stand at the crossroads and look. He tells them to ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it. Then they will find rest for their souls. But the people responded by saying that they will not walk in it. Now that's powerful. I also want, before you keep on, I also want you to look up what the word desolate means and apply it to your life. Look up the regular definition, then look up the etymology, then look up the Strong's Concordance of the word desolate and apply all of that to your life. So in Jeremiah, God is saying there is a good way. There's a path that leads to rest. There's a direction that leads to life, but you have to choose to walk in it. And the people clearly told him, no, we ain't gonna do it. We will not walk in it. Let's bring that principle into our lives. Has God already shown us the good way, but we're refusing to walk in it? That may be why nothing feels right in your life. It may be why you're restless. It may be why you're spiritually dry. Rest for your soul is found in walking the way God told you to walk. Not just knowing the path. Anybody can know the path, but you got to walk it. Some of us already know the good way, and we're choosing not to walk in it. We know what God said. We know what needs to change. We know what relationships need to be gone or need boundaries. And we know what habit needs to stop. We know what we need to do. But we keep saying, not yet. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. And God is like, walk in it and you will find rest for your soul. That peace that you're seeking is tied in to walking in your purpose. Let's move on now and talk about the signs that you are living in your purpose. This doesn't mean that life is perfect and that every day is going to be easy and you never feel tired, because I will be lying to you if I tell you that. I'll be lying to you if I tell you you'll never face an attack and all you're going to see is the fruits of the spirits and blah, blah. No, 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 no. But when you are walking in your purpose, you are going to go glory to glory. You are going to start seeing fruit. You are going to start seeing momentum. I will say that. So we keep talking about peace, having a peace beyond understanding. That is definitely the first sign. It's not a peace that comes when everything is all good and dandy. It's a peace that when everything is still being figured out and when you're going through trials and tribulations and just everything hits the fan, there's something in your spirit that is like, man, God got this. I'm cooling. I'm good. I'm going to go do XYZ or whatever. Like, you good. It's a peace that it's hard to explain to anybody. When people start asking you, like, how are you so calm right now? Like, how do you have so much faith in God and you're not panicking? It's like, God is with me or God got it. That's one sign of alignment. Jonah didn't have that peace when he was running. He had sleep, but he ain't had no peace. He was avoiding what he had to do. And right now in your life, do you have peace or do you have a false sense of peace because you're avoiding the thing that you're supposed to do? So you're living in your comfort. The second sign is that doors begin to open that you couldn't have opened yourself. Open doors are not only a sign of purpose because the enemy can present opportunities as well. This is why you need discernment. But when you're walking in alignment, you're going to start noticing favor. There's going to be conversations that happen that you didn't even plan. Resources that just out of nowhere just start showing up. People connecting with you. Ideas start flowing. Like God starts making a way in places where not even you forcing could have caused that to make it a way. This is what happens when purpose and obedience start coming together. You stop striving in your own strength because you're thriving. You stop trying to kick down every door and forcing what God didn't send. And things just start aligning. It's not because you manipulated it, it's because God established your steps. The third sign is a domino effect will start taking place. Everything just starts falling into place slowly but surely. One step leads to another. One act of obedience opens another door. One conversation confirms something. Like one yes creates movement. All of this may not happen overnight, but you're going to start seeing momentum in your life. Purpose has a way of creating momentum when you're walking with God. Even in the opposition, there's still confirmation. You still hear that voice. That voice may be even telling you, hey, you're closer than you think. Hey, just wait. Just give it a second. You're almost there. Like there's still that confirmation there. And even when you're being stretched, you still have peace. In the process, you're still seeing fruit. One thing that's important that I would like for you guys to start getting in the habit of, if you're no matter what season, but especially if you're in a season where you're just like, what in the world is going on? Get a piece of paper and write down all the fruits that you start seeing. All the fruits. It don't matter how small it is. It could be something as somebody today bought you a meal. You weren't even expecting that. The person in front of you in the line that you were waiting for paid it forward and now you got a free meal. That could be a fruit. Or it could be that you found a $20 bill on the floor. Or you got a phone call and that phone call just reassured everything and that person just spoke life to you. That's a fruit. Start writing all the fruits that you're seeing so that you can focus on that. Especially when the enemy's attacking you, you just focus like, hey, I'm seeing fruit in my life. There's nothing you can tell me. One of the mistakes that we make is thinking purpose will just happen to us. Jonah, he didn't fulfill the assignment by thinking about Nineveh. He had to be there physically. He had to go physically. And at some point, obedience requires action. And this is where I tie my book into all my teaching when God says jump, because it's not always God giving you the full map when he says, hey, I need you to take a leap of faith. Sometimes God gives you the next move. He starts saying, start, apply, prepare, release. Like he tells you the things. And we're quick to be like, God, well, what do I do? Step 5. And it's like, God is telling you, hey, you haven't even done what I told you. You haven't even done step 1. You worried about step 5, but step 5 depends on you even doing step 1 and how well you do step 1 and step 2. And if you even stay in, you get what I'm saying? So purpose is not built by waiting until everything is clear. It's built by obeying what is clear now. We see this in the story of Noah. He knew what he had to do, but that's it. Like he ain't know nothing else. God told him there's rain, there's a flood, there's this, there's that. He ain't never seen rain in his life. He ain't even know what that was. Imagine if he wouldn't have built that, like that first initial step. There's times that God is telling you, go pray. Okay, go pray. He may be telling you, prepare. Go prepare for whatever it is he's telling you to prepare. He may even be telling you, leave. Whatever it is. Pack your things, get up, and get out of there. Whatever he told you to do, begin there. Delayed obedience can start to look like confusion. So if you're confused, it might not be the devil messing with you. It might just be that you're delaying the thing that he told you to do, and now you're creating all of this commotion in your mind. Like you're doing it to yourself. Another thing I want to say is that purpose is connected to stewardship. God gives gifts, talents, testimonies, experiences, wisdom. He gives us leadership, compassion, and discernment for a reason. He gives us all these things and more. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 says that we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. There are things that God designed you to do, not to glorify yourself and compete with people, but to serve, build, help, teach, heal, lead, you name it. Glorify God for sure. And when you bury what God gave you, it's not humility. You're not being humble. You're acting out of fear. You're acting out of insecurity. You're acting out of disobedience. If God gave it to you, he expects you to steward it. And steward requires your participation. It requires movement. What gifts have you been sitting on lately? What talents are just being wasted away? What testimony have you been hiding? You got to ask yourself, what has God placed in you that someone else may need? Your purpose isn't just about you. Your obedience may be connected to someone else's breakthrough, their encouragement, their healing. Who knows? Like we could name here a lot of things. And the enemy, I'm not going to say back in the day, but especially now, like I don't want to sit here and say, oh, things were different back then and this, like, no. The enemy now has done a very, very great job in keeping us distracted, keeping us in a constant state of fear and worry, and keeping us in a constant state of isolation and just lack of community and lack of helping others, and everything is me, 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 me. And there's so many people that are gifted and talented that I'm pretty sure if they knew the powers, the gifts, like if they knew who they were, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would resign today and chase their dreams. I'm being honest with you. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that would resign and go and chase their dreams. But the enemy, I've had this debate with so many people, and at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I've won. every single one of them, but when you use scripture, which is truth, is not opinion, is not nothing. When you use scripture to back certain things up, you good. You just got to keep your opinion out of it. So right now it's like a mixture of, of a little bit of both, but the enemy has done such a great job to distract people and put people in positions that they weren't even supposed to be in. It wasn't even God's calling on their life. And because of that, they can't step into who they're meant to be. They can't use their gifts and talents. Like something so simple. How many people are probably amazing at painting? Yeah, let's use something so simple at painting. And they're meant to paint, these big buildings, and they're meant to paint God knows what and this and that. But because of life choices, altars, generational curses, things passed down, all of those things, people don't step into their purpose. People don't step into their calling. And the enemy just continues to distract us, continues to fill us up with fear through the news and social media, all of this stuff. So, take a moment and think about that. Your purpose is not just about you. Imagine how many lives you can change, including your own and your family and your children, if you just take that first step to what you're supposed to do. Think about that. Honestly, think about that for a second. It'll really change your perspective on a lot of things. Now, purpose also requires process. And I want to say this very clearly. Just because God called you does not mean you get to skip preparation. I wish I could tell you that this was true. I wish I could tell you that, oh yeah, I told God I'm gonna do it and I was able to skip everything, woke up and boom, everything. No. David was anointed king and he still had to go back to the sheep. Joseph had dreams. He still had to go through the pit. He still had to go to Potiphar's house and prison before the palace. We could talk about Moses and we could even talk about Jesus himself. Years in preparation before we see in the scriptures him stepping out into public ministry. Many people, I won't say all, but many people despise the process. But the process is so important because that's where God is forming you to become who he called you to be. Maybe God hasn't given you that platform because he's still building your character. He could possibly still be teaching you discipline, and that's why that door that needs to be open hasn't opened yet. Don't ever think your process is being wasted. It's actually transforming you. And if you know God gave you a purpose, but you're still in preparation, don't quit. That is a good sign. Keep showing up, keep praying, keep obeying. That same God that gave the revelation will guide the process, and you'll see the other side. We also have to talk a little bit about misalignment because sometimes we're waiting on God to bless what he already told us. Hey, stop building that. Stop doing that. Stop focusing your attention on that. There's moments that God is not asking us to try harder. He's just simply saying, hey, can you stop? Let that go. And all you keep saying is, no, I got to grind. I got to keep pushing. I got to keep pushing. And God is like, all right, any minute now, like, let go, stop. Like, you're wasting your time. There are moments where the issue is not your effort, it's your direction, it's your focus. You can be committed to the wrong thing. And you can be consistent in something that God never assigned to you. In Proverbs 16:9, it says that you can plan your course, but it's God that establishes your step. You got to ask yourself, God, is this that I built with you, or did I build this and ask you to bless it afterwards? There's times that we do that. You got to ask God too. Am I walking in your direction, or am I asking you to follow mine? God, is this an assignment that you have for me, or is this just my ambition talking and my drive for life? You may be surprised at the answers that you'll get. One person that comes to mind is Smokey Norful. I think it's full because it's FUL. But yeah, Smokey. He's a pastor now, but listen to his testimony whenever you get a chance. I'm not going to say it verbatim or the exact words. I'm just going to say what I remember. He talks about how he put his ladder on the wrong wall. That was the analogy he gave. He put up his ladder on the wrong wall, and when he got to the top, it wasn't God's plan for his life. So he literally had to go back down. And I believe either he was a Grammy winning or Grammy nominated. I don't know. He was something because he was in the music industry. But he got to the very top of his career. And when he got there, he noticed it wasn't God's plan. So he had to climb back down, put the ladder on the real wall, on the real plan that God had for his life, and then climb up. Excuse me. So you could only imagine the time. Obviously, God is going to redeem everything, but you could only imagine the time that has wasted. You get what I'm saying? So, with all that being said, God's given purpose, it may stretch you, but it's also going to sustain you. So, no matter what you're doing, always ask God the questions, and you always want to make sure that you're building your life in alignment with God's plan for you. So you don't wake up one day and you're like, what is this? And then you got to tear it all down because God didn't bless it. And God's not going to allow you to pass that down to the next generation. So, yeah, let's go back to the question. What if your Nineveh, the thing that you're running from, is purpose? What if it's not a person? It's not forgiveness? What if it's you're running from your purpose? What if God has been nudging you and showing you that where you are is not where you're supposed to be at? What if that frustration that you're feeling is not failure? What if the restlessness that you have is not random? What if all the turmoil that you're going through is connected to the simple fact that you know there's more, but you haven't taken that first step? Remember that purpose is not about having everything figured out. It's about walking with the one that does. So this week, I want you to take some time, sit with God during your prayers, and ask, am I living in my purpose, or am I just living in routine? Where do I feel restless, stuck, or misaligned in my life? What has God been nudging me to do that I keep delaying? What gifts and talents have I been wasting? What path am I walking that God never told me to even take in the first place? Where have I confused adversity with misalignment? And what is one step that I can take this week towards obedience, towards walking in my purpose? Take some time to write it down. The clarity that you're seeking might come when you stop letting everything stay in your head. So write the vision, write the instruction, any warnings, like write what you know. You may not know everything, but write what God has already revealed to you. Then take that first step, whether if it's making the phone call, filling out the application, writing the outline, whatever, creating a budget, ending a cycle, starting a fast, like the list goes on. Whatever step it is, take it. You need to create movement. You need momentum. Let's recap today's lesson. Purpose is not about a job title or career path. It is about alignment with God. In the book of Jonah, he had one clear assignment and he ran from it. Many of us, we do the same thing when it comes to purpose, because it feels uncomfortable, unclear, maybe even inconvenient. And we talked about how God can give you revelation before he gives you the full plan. And obedience to the first step is often what opens the, the doorway for the next step. We talked about the signs that you may not be living in your purpose, which were nothing seems to be going right, not because of normal adversity, but because of repeated misalignment. You keep getting a nudge or hearing that small, still voice. You feel a pull in the opposite direction of where you're going. And we also talked about the signs that you may be living in your purpose, which were you have a peace beyond understanding. There's doors that are opening that you couldn't even have opened yourself. And there's a domino effect where things begin to align. We also use Jeremiah 6 to remind us that God tells his people to ask for the good way and walk in it, and there they will find rest for their souls. Please read that chapter because this is not in the context God used this for. So please read it for yourself because I use that chapter for context of purpose in our life, okay? We also used Proverbs 16:9 to remember that we may plan our course, but God, the Lord, he's the one that establishes our steps. If you have been feeling pulled, restless, frustrated, you name it, maybe God is not punishing you. He's probably just redirecting you and showing you that you're not living in your purpose. Remember, you don't need to have the full plan just to take the first step. You don't need to feel completely ready to obey. You don't need to understand everything before you move. God gave you the revelation, honor it. He gave you instruction, obey it. He gave you that nudge, do not ignore it. The longer we delay purpose, the more we create unnecessary storms for ourselves and those around us. But the moment we surrender, God can begin to establish our steps. Your purpose is not too big for God. Your gifts are not random. All right? Your experiences, they're not wasted. Your testimony is not meaningless. The desire for more that keeps rising in you is God calling you out of survival and into assignment. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for today. Thank you for joining in, for watching. And if this teaching helped you, share it with someone who feels stuck, restless. Maybe they feel unsure of what God is calling them to do. If you also feel led to sow, you can do so at Women Legacies for both Cash App and Venmo. You can check out the information down below in the description box. And if you want to go deeper, my book, When God Says Jump, it's available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. You can also book a coaching session with me at karaimaonline.com or enroll in an online course if you want additional teachings, assignments, one-on-one coaching, and just support as you walk through what God is calling you to do. I'll see you next Wednesday. We're going to be teaching in our series, What is Your Nineveh? About comfort zones. So stay tuned.